Happy All Hallows Eve, everyone! Today is not only special because of it being Halloween, but also because today, October 31st, happens to be the birthday of our main protagonist in the RWBY series, Miss Ruby Rose. So make sure to wish her a happy birthday down in the comments below. Today we're going over the results of the poll to determine the RWBY fandom's favorite Grimm. There were over 250 voters with over 700 responses, so we got a little bit of diversity in the Grimm that made it into the top 10. Although near the top there was a bit of conflict. So, starting off with number 10, which received 25 votes, we have the Seer Grimm. We haven't seen it really that much in the series other than in Volume 5 and maybe a bit in Volume 4 that Salem can use to communicate to another Seer Grimm. She used it to communicate to Leonardo and Watts when he was there with Leonardo to convey her orders as to what he wanted him to do. Not only that, the Seer Grimm also ended up being the death of Leonardo, as we saw it strangle him, and then what we can assume from what we heard, Leonardo was killed off screen by the Seer Grimm. Coming in at number 9, we have a Grimm that was just introduced to us in Volume 6, the Manticore, with 28 votes. Commanded by the Sphinx, the Manticore actually beat out its commander in the top 10. The Sphinx did not make it. Now, the Manticore did pose a decent amount of threat when it was introduced in Volume 6, along with the Sphinx, where first thing we saw in the volume was everyone fighting on the train against the Manticores. Even the trained huntsmen, supposedly trained huntsmen, Dee and Dudley, had some difficulty, considering Dee, I believe, was the one who ended up dying from a Manticore, being thrown off the train, at least so we think. In the commentary they did say that Dee was dead, so yeah, the Manticore did take a victim in Volume 6 that we saw on screen. And they returned again at the end of the volume to attack alongside the Leviathan, though they didn't really make much of an impact there, at least from what we could see. Next up, for number 8, we have one of the OG Grimm, the King Taijitu. Introduced to us back in Volume 1, this Grimm got 34 votes, and was the one that was introduced to us in the Emerald Forest when Ren had a fight with it, and then again in Volume 2 when Roman Torchwick led all the Grimm to the city with the train. Since then, we haven't really seen the King Taijitu at all. I don't think we saw it invade Beacon Academy in Volume 3, and we definitely have not seen it since Volume 3, I don't think. I know we've seen it in the book of After the Fall. There are King Taijitu in Vacuo, so we will see the King Taijitu again when we make it to Vacuo in the RWBY series. But beyond that, hopefully we'll see the King Taijitu maybe again in Atlas. Maybe there's an ice form. But speaking of Atlas, coming in at number 7 with 35 votes, beating the King Taijitu by only 1, is one of the brand new Grimm introduced to us in the Volume 7 trailer. Conveniently enough, it also ranked number 7 in the poll, the Sabre Grimm, or the one based off of the Saber-tooth. We don't really know much of anything about this Grimm. We saw it in the trailer that Team RWBY and everyone was having to fight it in the streets of Mantle, and it seemed like it could pose quite a bit of a threat with the teeth that it has and the speed that it moved. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this Grimm performs, and it seems like a lot of other people are as well. For number 6, with 38 votes, I am really happy to see this Grimm here. It's one that I personally voted for, the OG Beowulf. The one introduced to us, the first Grimm ever introduced to us in the Red trailer, though their design has changed a little bit over time. The Beowulf is the first Grimm that was introduced to us, the image of the threat posed to our heroes from the very beginning. The Beowulf is pretty much the poster boy for the Grimm, and I'm so happy that it made this list. We've seen it many times throughout the series, not really that much in the Volumes 4, 5, and 6. I think we may have seen 1 or 2, maybe, but it's always there, always present, and I hope we will see it again, maybe seeing some Ice Beowulfs again in Atlas. I'm hoping we see a lot of returning OG Grimm in Atlas. Now, for numbers 5 to 3, we got a 4-way or, well, not necessarily a four-way tie, but they were very close. Rank 5 had 55 votes, rank 3 had 57, with third place being a tie with 2 Grimm. So there were 4 Grimm very much competing to be in the top 5. So before I get to those, I'm going to go over some of the honorable mentions. We have the Sphinx Grimm, which was beat out by the Manticore. The Sphinx had 22 votes, alongside, tied with, the Berengull. Now, I feel like the Berengull is probably going to outweigh that, or if I redo this poll when the channel becomes a little bit more popular, maybe next Halloween, maybe 2 Halloweens from now, we'll see. I feel like the Berengull's gonna beat out, or make it into the top 10, because I didn't put in a separate category for the Berengull or Winged Berengull, and, well, we know that the Berengull army is coming along with Salem to Atlas, so I feel like that might make a bit more of an impact later on. But we shall have to see. Next up, with 20 votes, we have the Lancer, which came in 12th, which, I mean, is kind of makes sense. I thought the Lancer might actually make it into the top 10, considering Weiss's favorite summon, or one of her favorite summons, is the Queen Lancer, so it's interesting to see that it made it to 12th. And then 13th, with 18 votes, is the Goliath. Now, this Grimm is a looming menace. We have no idea how much power it actually has. We know that Oobleck fears it and wants to leave it alone and not mess with it. We know that Team Coffee had some real trouble with it when we got the little story in After the Fall, so the Goliath is a bit of a mystery. We will likely see it in the future and have someone fight it on screen, I hope, but it'd also be kind of interesting if they just never really make an encounter with a Goliath or actually try to fight one head on, and it's just this looming menace that no one ever takes on. That would also be interesting too. Now, getting into the top 5. Coming in at number 5 with 55 votes, we have our first boss-style Grimm, the Sea Fei Long. The Grimm introduced to us back in Volume 4 when Blake and Sun had to take it on while they were on their way to Menagerie. It is a seafaring Grimm, or one that is out at sea. We haven't seen one on land, but that would be kind of terrifying if there was. This Grimm can shoot lightning out of its mouth and could only be taken out by a straight-up cannon shot. Blake and Sun could only be a distraction. This Grimm is one of my favorite boss-style Grimm as well, and I'm so happy that it made it this far up the list. Now, number 4 is one that was actually competing for the number 2 spot at the beginning of the poll. It is very popular. Coming in with 56 votes, we have the Geist Grimm. And now this category includes the Geist in its normal form, as well as the Petragigas and the Armagigas, which is Weiss's favorite and most signature summon. The knight that she always summons is in fact a Geist Grimm inhabiting a suit of armor that we saw her fight in the White trailer. This Grimm, I'm so happy again to see that it's so far up. I figured that it would be, and it's really nice to see. If I split it into different categories and just had a picture of the Armagigas, I wonder if it would fare differently. What do you guys think? Should I, if I do this poll again, do you think I should split it up into its different categories, or do you think that the Geist, Petragigas, and Armagigas would all make it into the top 10 and skew it a little bit? Because that's what I kind of thought, and that's why I included them all in one category, but I'd like to get your thoughts. Now, coming in at number 3 is a tie with 57 votes. We have our second boss-style Grimm, the Wyvern, along with the Nevermore. I was really surprised that the Nevermore is as popular as it is. I knew it was a fan favorite Grimm from one of our OGs, and this is apparently the most popular OG Grimm that made it up this far. And when I say OG Grimm, I mean Grimm from Volume 3 and before. I'm really happy that the Nevermore made it, and it tied with the Wyvern, the Grimm that is probably one of the most terrifying in the entire series. The Wyvern can spawn other Grimm just by creating black droplets that drip on the ground and immediately create more. It is a walking black pool that Salem has in her territory. It's those black pools that spawn Grimm. The Wyvern is one that can fly. Like, that's absolutely terrifying. Not to mention, we didn't actually see how much power it had. It destroyed the top of Beacon, but still. And then, of course, there's the Nevermore, which we did get that badass fight between the Grim Reaper and the Nevermore. It was very quick, showing off the Grim Reaper's power, but when we see the giant Nevermore in Volume 6, it was a great throwback to the first couple volumes, and I hope we see the Nevermore again. Though, I have a feeling we may not be seeing many flying Grimm other than the Beringles in Atlas, because the ice may interfere with, flight and wings and feathers and things, so we'll see how that ends up going. Coming in, well, I'm sure most of you can guess what the next two are, and coming in with 66 votes, we have the favorite boss-style Grimm, the Knucklelavy. Now, the Knucklelavy being the boss of Volume 4 that Team Ranger had to fight, and it was a heck of a fight. There was a couple times throughout that fight that it seemed like they could have killed off a character had the writers of the RWBY series decided to take it that way. And then, of course, for number 1, you all know who made it to number 1, or what Grimm made it. It's the one I voted for, it's the one many of you voted for. Second place, the Knucklelavy had 66 votes. Number 1 had 116, the Apathy. I voted for this one. This one's my favorite Grimm. It's Miles Luna, his love child, his favorite Grimm as well, something that they have been waiting on from way back at the beginning of RWBY. I think even Monty had some input on this Grimm, and the Apathy is such a great Grimm. RWBY's first delve into a little horror aspect. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm really happy to see the Apathy and Knucklelavy making it to the top 2 spots. I mean, I kind of had a feeling that this was going to be the case because they are both amazingly designed, have very much history with them, the Knucklelavy being based on some mythological creatures from, I believe, Scottish origin. It's also a combination of a horse Grimm and an imp Grimm, which we haven't actually seen apart, though it has been confirmed that it is an amalgamation of 2, so maybe we'll see that more in the future. The Apathy, though, was the highlight of Volume 6. The best part of the volume, in my opinion, and I'm really happy to see it there. Now, surprisingly enough, we didn't get the Leviathan making it to the top 10, or even the top 13. The Kaiju-style Grimm still got about 10 votes, but didn't actually make it to the top 10, as well as a few of the others that I thought maybe would have made it. The Ursai that were in Volume 1 to 3, and etc. There was a lot of Grimm. I'm really happy to see how this turned out, not to mention the the tie for 3rd place, and then 4th and 5th being only 1 vote off each. I'd like to see if we could get a vote or a poll going that maybe has 500 voters or more and see how everything will shape up. Again, maybe after Volume 7, maybe after Volume 8, we'll see how things go. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for participating in this poll. I'm looking forward to doing more of these in the future, so hopefully you guys look forward to that. Let me know down in the comments below if you expected the results to turn out the way they did, or if there were any that made the list that just completely surprised you. Let me know down in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you, and also let me know what other kind of polls you guys want to see. I'd be interested in hearing that as well. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.